to talk to you about a very interesting point you made in the debate, and we actually discussed this last time you came on my show. You made a point quite emphatically about using the term genital preference instead of sexual orientation. Yeah. Can you explain why it's important when dismantling the arguments of leftists to talk about orientation rather than preference?
I mean, most leftists will try to persuade you into seeing their way of it's persuading to see their arguments by changing words and gaslighting you, right? Yeah. They're changed the definition of words, and one of those words that they changed the definition of is preference. The word preference in the dictionary, and as we know, societally, I can't say that word, colloquially.
Colloquially.
I can't say it. Yes, I can't say it. It means you have a choice, right? Well, I like chocolate ice cream, but I really prefer vanilla. Okay, so you can like both, but you prefer one over the other. That's not the same thing as sexual orientation, especially, or not especially, specifically monosexual people, like straight people and gay people. You don't prefer one genitalia over the other. You just only like one. So when they're saying you have a genital preference, number one, you're suggesting that sexual orientation is a choice. And number two, you're gaslighting somebody into saying that their sexual orientation is inherently transphobic. And that's 100% an actual homophobia, or even straight phobia, if that's a thing.
Monophobia.
But, monosexual phobia, yeah.
That's a really interesting point, because I remember I mentioned, I think, sexual preference, I said in our last discussion, and you said, oh, hang on a minute, think of it this way. And I thought it does. It makes total sense. If you're trying to make the argument that a lesbian not wanting to date a trans woman is somehow transphobic because of the genitals involved, then of course saying it's a preference indicates it's a choice, and therefore, oh well, you must be transphobic. Like you're
just transphobic. You don't really see them as what they see themselves. Blah blah blah. No, I don't. Sorry, like I don't. Like you're not gonna gaslight me into saying that I have to be sexually attracted to somebody that I'm not. Just because they feel a certain way. That's homophobia, and I will die on that hill. I really will. And I said that, I think, in the last video that I posted. I will die on that hill. It's just another example of the left going so far to the left that they're back on the right, and the far right has homophobic tendencies as well.
Oh, absolutely, and I think it's also terribly misogynistic, because if you think of what the left, like quote unquote feminists, have been saying for ages, is that women shouldn't be pressured into sleeping with males that they're not attracted to. Like that's been, and that, they talk about, rape culture, as if that's a thing, but they say, just because a guy buys you a drink doesn't mean you're obligated to sleep with them, for instance, if you're not attracted to them, and, which is true. But it seems to me that with trans women who are male, and many of which still have male genitalia, that's pressuring women, in this case lesbians, to have sex with biological men that they don't want to have sex with. How can these women still call themselves feminists?
That's why I was on the previous Jubilee episode, which was last December, which was the feminist versus anti-feminist. And they were like, how can you be a lesbian and a woman and be an anti-feminist? I'm like, because y'all changed the definition of feminism. I don't agree with today's feminism. That's why. I agree with the old school feminists, not today's feminists.